Do different kinds of study of the Quran, and one of them is I recite the whole Quran and kind of take my own notes at a rapid pace. And I notice different things every time I read Quran. I notice different things. So this one time I was reading the Quran and I got to Surah Yusuf. And in Surah Yusuf Allah says, نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ أَحْسَنَ الْقَصَصِ. We are narrating on to you the best of all stories. أَحْسَنَ الْقَصَصِ. And I heard that and I said, wow, that's curious, because Allah calls it the best of all stories. But actually Suratul Qasas, surah number 28, is the one that's actually called Suratul Qasas. Even though 12 says it's the best of all stories, the surah that is called stories itself is Suratul Qasas. I found that peculiar. I didn't think much of it. I kept reading. And I kept reading and I got to Surah Ghafir about a week later. Surah number 40. And I read something in Surah number 40 that I still remember the day I fell off my chair. I read it and it hit me like it has never hit me before. And I was in absolute shock that I had never noticed it before. That's what I want to tell you about. In order to tell you that, the first thing I'll tell you is the story we heard today was based on the ayat in the beginning of what surah? Qasas. Later on in Suratul Qasas, Fir'aun will face Musa. Musa rather will face Fir'aun. And when they face off against each other, Fir'aun is going to say something to him that I want to tell you. He says, مَا هَذَا إِلَّا سِحْرٌ مُفْتَرَى وَمَا سَمِعْنَا بِهَذَا فِي آبَائِنَا الْأَوَّلِينَ. What you're telling us is nothing but made up magic. What is he calling magic? What do you think Fir'aun is calling magic? The staff that turns into a snake and the hand that turns white. He's saying this is nothing but made up magic. But the second thing he says that's unique, he says, وَمَا سَمِعْنَا بِهَذَا فِي آبَائِنَا الْأَوَّلِينَ. We have never heard anything like this. We have never heard anything of this from our earliest ancestral times. In our earliest ancestors, nobody ever said anything even close to what? This, that there's Allah, there's a messenger, all this stuff. Okay. So they've never heard of it before. I'm reading Surah Ghafir, and I come across the speech of the friend of Musa. Who was the friend of Musa? What was his job? Police chief. Finally, he let everybody know that he's Muslim. And he gave a speech in the Egyptian parliament. All the generals are sitting there. All the dignitaries are sitting there. Fir'aun is sitting there. And he's giving a speech about how he's Muslim. The speech is about 2.5 pages long, which is amazing in Surah Ghafir. And I'll quote you one ayah that he said in his speech. Listen carefully. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ يُوسُفُ مِنْ قَبْلِ بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ فَمَا زِلْتُمْ فِي شَكٍّ مِمَّا جَاءَكُمْ بِهِ حَتَّى إِذَا هَلَكَ قُلْتُمْ لَنْ يَبْعَثَ اللَّهُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ رَسُولًا كَذَلِكَ يُضِلُّ اللَّهُ مَنْ هُوَ مُسْرِفٌ مُرْتَابٌ. He says, no doubt about it, Yusuf had come to you before, remember? And he came to you with clear proofs too, remember guys? An Egyptian minister, an Egyptian police chief is talking to fellow Egyptians in parliament, telling them that here we are rejecting Musa, but doesn't Musa remind you of who? Yusuf? Doesn't he remind you of Yusuf? And when he died, remember you guys said there's never going to be a messenger after him. Remember when you said that? The fact of the matter that I want to bring to you, the thing that dropped me off my chair is just a week ago I thought there might be some connection between Surah Yusuf and Surah Al-Qasas. And now in Surah number 40, the Egyptians themselves are telling me there's a connection between Musa and Yusuf. What's even weirder is Surah number 12, I didn't think Surah number 12 had any relationship with Surah number 28, and I found out that they have a relationship with each other in Surah number 40. 12 and 28 is 40. And then, when I started, I said, you know what, let me go back and compare both of these stories. Is there even a similarity between Yusuf and, I don't know. Let me check. Let me check these two surahs against each other. I never read this in any tafsir. I've never found this in the writings of anybody else. This is entirely my own, which means you can consider it deviant and outrageous and never listen to it. Until just today, just bear with me today. So Surah Yusuf is about which messenger? Surah Al-Qasas is about which messenger? Musa alayhi salam. Surah Yusuf begins and a father is showing love to his son. Surah Al-Qasas begins and a mother is showing love to her son. When you read Surah Yusuf, you wonder, how come Allah doesn't talk about the mom? When you read Surah Al-Qasas, you wonder, how come Allah doesn't talk about the dad? It's like Allah told you, listen, there's a mom story and there's a dad story. Let me focus on the mom in this one. I've already focused on the dad in which one? Yusuf. There's a different focus. So each gets to be highlighted. Then, the first image is of the father quietly listening, lovingly listening to his son. Like, okay, he's showing love to his son. How is he showing love to his son? He's showing love to his son because boy comes up to dad and says, Dad, I've seen a dream. And the father doesn't say, you must have eaten too much last night. He says, okay, what did you see? And he's quietly listening to his son talk to him. In other words, what is an expression of love? When you listen to someone. You know, people, they say, I love my kids. But you can ask the kids, does your dad love you? I don't think so. He never listens to us. He never talks to us. Feeling like you're being heard is a big part of expressing what? Love. It's a big part of it. And we're learning about that in Surah Yusuf. On the other side, there's the image of a mother holding her baby, caressing her baby. Meaning love is both emotional, psychological, and also what? Physical. Physical love is shown by the mother, and emotional love is shown by the father, thus completing the full picture of love between the two of them. The father tries to protect his son by warning him. Don't tell your dream to who? Remember that? Don't tell your dream to your brothers. And the mother tries to protect her son by throwing him in a basket. Then, the father's protective measure is logical. What did the father do to protect his son? He tried to warn him. And warning is what? Logical, isn't it? But what the mother did, what did the mother do? Threw him in the basket. That was logical or illogical? That's completely illogical. So there's a logical step compared with a completely illogical step. But the logical measure that he came up with himself failed. And the illogical step that Allah told her to do succeeded. You see, what are we learning? Sometimes we have plans and sometimes Allah has plans. And our plan could be entirely logical, but Allah will not let it succeed because He has a different plan. He has His own way of working things out. Now the father is nourishing his son with words. The father is telling his son, after he hears the dream, this is how Allah has chosen you. كَذَلِكَ يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْحَدِيثِ وَيُتِمُّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ. He's going on and on, showering his son with compliments and positive reinforcement. That is how he is feeding his son. How is the mother feeding her son? With milk. We have to feed our children with good positive words and with food and drink. Our words feed our children, and the food and drink feeds our children. Both kinds of nourishments complete the picture. The father loses his child. The mother also what? Loses her child. The father loses his child against his will. The mother loses her child what? Willingly. She willingly put him in the basket, right? The child is in danger because he might drown inside a what? Well. The other child is in danger because he will drown inside a river. They both might drown though. There's a danger of them drowning. Then the brothers ask Yaqub to go out with the boy. Didn't they come to him? Arsilhu ma'ana. They asked Yaqub alayhi salam, can we go out with the boy? And on the other hand, the mother asks Musa's sister to go after him. So here the siblings came to the parent and said, we want to go out. And the other way, the parent told the child, you go out and you follow your brother. It's the other way around. The brothers go out against the father's wish. Did they, yes or no? Even against the father's wish, they still go out. And the sister goes out, Musa's sister goes out, wow, how? In accordance with the mother's wish. The brother go out with evil intent. Why did the brothers go out? What did they want to do? Kill him or at least leave him abandoned, right? They go with evil intent. And the sister goes out with what kind of intention? To save, with good intention. The brothers come back with a made-up story. What's the made-up story? We'll fade, here's the blood, here's the shirt. Remember that? The sister comes back with a made-up story. I think I know some family somewhere. They live here somewhere. Remember that? She made a story up. One came up to make up a story to ensure that the separation stays in place. The other to reunite. That's the next point. The brothers caused the separation. The sister causes the reunion. The family is reunited years later. In which story? Yusuf's story. Years later, the family is reunited. Now the family is reunited the same day. Baby gets tired. Baby gets cranky. Starts crying. And the thing works out the same exact day. So Allah's plan might work out today, or it might work out what? Years from now, you just don't know. You don't know if your challenge will be over today, or your challenge will take years. That's in the hands of Allah. The father is sad. تَفْتَأُ تَذْكُرُ Yusuf. The father is described as overwhelmingly what? Sad. And the mother is described as her heart having been made tough. Subhanallah. Yaqub is overwhelmed with grief, and Yusuf's mother has been made what? Tough. Her heart has been strengthened. The father says, listen to this. The father says, إِنِّي لَيَحْزُنُنِي أَن تَذْهَبُوا بِهِ وَأَخَافُ أَن يَأْكُلَهُ الذِّئْبُ. I'm afraid, it makes me sad that you will take him, and I'm afraid that a wolf might eat him. There are two emotions. What are the two emotions? I am sad that you're taking him, and I'm afraid that a wolf might eat him. What's the first emotion? Sadness. What's the second emotion? Fear. Listen again. Allah told Musa's mother, "La takhafi wa la tahzani." Don't be afraid and don't be sad. The reverse. He mentioned sadness and fear. Allah told her, don't be afraid and don't be sad. Subhanallah. The father keeps hope alive, even though Allah never told him. Allah told him Yusuf is alive or no? He just had hope alive anyway, because he has good expectations from Allah. The mother keeps hope alive because she has what? Revelation from Allah that your son will be returned to you. The father is inspired at the end of the story. Meaning at the end of the story, he can sense Allah puts some feeling in him that Yusuf is alive. And the mother has the feeling that the baby will be okay from the very what? From the very beginning. The father is reunited with his son by a governmental order. What am I talking about? Yusuf issues the order, you must bring the whole family. Government order. The mother is reunited with her son by a government order. What am I talking about? The queen said, go find me someone who can feed him. And that's how they're fed. Yusuf alayhi salam, who's an official, he wants the reunion. Yusuf alayhi salam says, bring them back because he wants the reunion to happen. But Musa alayhi salam, who's a prince, he needs the reunion. Why does he need the reunion? There's want compared to need here. What's the need? He'll drown. Or he'll die. He'll starve if he doesn't get this reunion. The parents are placed on the throne. In what story? Yusuf. And the mother is kept on as a servant. In what story? Musa alayhi salam. Just complete opposites. Then let's compare their childhood. Yusuf's childhood versus Musa alayhi salam's childhood. Yusuf goes from a well, because he was in a well, and he ends up with a high-ranking official, with the Aziz. I'll put it this way. Yusuf goes from a well to a high-ranking man. Musa goes from a river, finish the thought, to a high-ranking woman, to a queen. They sold him for a small price, not realizing it. Who am I talking about? Yusuf. They decided to let him stay alive, not realizing it. Not realizing what they're doing. Musa. There's both have mention of someone not realizing something. Yusuf ends up in an Egyptian palace. Musa also ends up where? In an Egyptian palace. Musa ends up in an Egyptian palace as Yusuf ends up in an Egyptian palace as a servant. Musa ends up in an Egyptian palace as a prince. They're both in an Egyptian palace, but the opposite roles. The husband makes the case for the boy to the wife. Who am I talking about? Yusuf, the husband, the minister, told the wife, we should keep him. In the other story, the wife makes the case to the husband, we should keep him. Which story is that? Musa alayhi salam. Now there are two options. The husband gave the wife two options. We could keep him as a servant, Yusuf, I'm talking about Yusuf. We could keep Yusuf as a servant, or we could adopt him. Does that sound familiar? What two options did Pharaoh's wife give him? We could keep him as a servant, or we could adopt him. So there are two options in both cases, identical. عَسَىٰ أَن يَنْفَعَنَا أَوْ نَتَّخِذَهُ وَلَدًا. By the way, the language is identical. Generations later, exactly the same words are orchestrated by Allah into these people's mouths. And they think they're coming up with these words. It's Allah that's putting those words in their mouth. They don't even know it's inspired by Allah. They don't even know. And there are two options. Now, one option is servant, the other is adoption. In Yusuf's case, which option is used? Servant. In Musa's case, which option is used? Adoption. So we see both play out. Now let's talk a little bit about the caretaker. The husband walked home and he told his wife, honor, take care of his housing, akrimi mathwahu. Who's in a position of authority? The husband, the one who brought the child, and he's telling his wife what to do. The wife comes to Fir'aun, does he tell him what to do? No, she pleads with him, don't kill him. Let him stay. The wife is the villain in which story? Yusuf. The husband's the villain in which story? Musa A.S. The wife is out of the husband's control. The wife is out of the husband's control. She's outrageous. Which story? Yusuf. The husband is out of the wife's control. Which story? Musa A.S. Now they're youth. Yusuf A.S., when he got older, Allah mentioned two things about him. When he became a teenager, Allah mentioned two things. The first thing He mentioned was that He gave him the ability to interpret speech. لِنُعَلِّمَهُ مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. We taught him how to interpret speech. But then He said, فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Listen again. I am talking about Yusuf. Listen carefully. When he became a teenager, we gave him wisdom and knowledge, and that's how we reward those who excel. What does that sound like? Didn't I tell you that about who? Musa A.S. The only difference is, with Musa, Allah said, Allah gave, when he became a teenager, and he became strong, Allah gave him wisdom and knowledge. So in one story, you know the capability that's highlighted is the ability to interpret different kinds of speech. Whose story is that? So in addition to wisdom and knowledge and excellence and spirituality, the special quality of Yusuf is what? Interpreting speech. And the special quality in Musa's case is what? Strength. Now notice, interpreting speech will play a pivotal role. It will play a central role in the rest of the story of Yusuf. And strength will play a pivotal role in the rest of the story of Musa. Why did the guy get killed? Because of the strength. How was he able to help those girls? Because of the strength. How did he end up getting married? Because of the strength. One of the qualities that gets him married. Yusuf A.S., how does he get out of jail? Because of his ability to what? Interpret speech, among many other cases. It's interpreting speech that determines the rest of the story. Now, in Yusuf's case, strength, and Musa's case, alayhi salam, Yusuf's case, interpreting speech, and Musa's case, strength. Now, these are both teenagers, yes? And now Allah has described their capabilities and their good qualities. In the very next ayah, in Surah Yusuf, in the very next ayah, Yusuf is put to the test. And in Surah Al-Qasas, in the very next ayah, Musa is put to the test. What was the test of Yusuf? Does anybody know? The Yusuf's test was, indoors. Wasn't it? It was in the seclusion within. It was indoors. And Musa's test was where? Outdoors. One test is indoors, one test is outdoors. One test is, even though it's indoors, it's secluded. And the other one is outdoors and it's still secluded. And in one test, there's only one witness. And in the other test, there's also only one witness. And in this test, the witness is corrupt. And in that test, the witness is also corrupt. And then, one test is about zina. Which test is about zina, adultery? Yusuf's test. One test is about murder. Which test? And listen, Allah says two things. Allah tells us, on the one hand, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Then He says, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا النَّفْسَ. The two major sins. The two major sins. Don't go near zina, don't kill anybody. الَّذِينَ لَا يَقْتُلُونَ النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ وَلَا يَزْنُونَ. They don't kill anybody, they don't commit zina. So the two major crimes, one story deals with one major crime, the other story deals with the other major crime. Yusuf a.s. has the right words to say before falling into temptation. Musa a.s. has the right words to say after making a mistake. One spoke before, the other spoke what? After. Subhanallah. In Yusuf's trial, he understood haytalak. When she said, come here, She didn't say, I want to do something with you. I want you to do this, that, or that. She didn't spell anything out. All she said was what? Come here. But what is Yusuf's special power? He can understand. And by the way, she's the owner of the house. Does she tell him to come here all the time? Come here, do this. Come here, do that. Come here, do this. Come here. Does she do that all the time? All the time. How does he know this one time when she says come here, she means something bad? Because he knows how to interpret speech. That's the genius of Yusuf. You see that? Because actually, haytalak, there's nothing wrong in it. The words have nothing wrong in them. As a matter of fact, these words she may have used her entire life. But he's smart enough to interpret that speech. On the other hand, Musa a.s. misunderstands the situation. Yusuf completely understands the situation. Musa misunderstands the situation and took action. Yusuf a.s.'s test. By the way, one of the things that motivated Yusuf a.s. to not do the wrong thing, of course, fear of Allah. But the second thing he mentioned was he's loyal to the Aziz. He's loyal to who? The people who took care of him, the family who took care of him. He's loyal to them. And one of the reasons that drove Musa a.s. to throw the punch was his hatred of the Egyptians. So one was actually driven by loyalty and the other actually by his disregard. Animosity was also part of the equation. Yusuf is told to avoid talking about it. You know that? Yusuf a.s. don't talk about this. Leave it alone. Let it go. Musa a.s. himself avoids being detected, runs away. By the way, in the case of Yusuf, was any crime committed? No crime was committed. In the case of Musa, a crime was committed, even though it was unintentional. In the case of Yusuf, someone testifies to prove that he's innocent. You remember who testified to prove he's innocent? The person who pointed at the shirt? It was ripped from the back. Somebody testified to prove he's innocent. In the case of Musa, someone testified to prove he's guilty. Who pointed at him and proved he's guilty? The guy in the crime scene who pointed at him, you want to kill me like you killed someone yesterday? Remember that? There is no eyewitness except Yusuf and the woman. And in the other case, there's no eyewitness except who? Musa and the man. The testimony arrives moments later. In which case? In Yusuf's case, moments later, testimony, the good testimony arrives. And the false accusation arrives when? In Musa's case, the next day. It arrives the next day. One testimony is neutral and the other testimony is biased. Can you tell me which testimony is neutral? Yusuf's testimony is neutral. Which testimony is biased? Musa a.s. testimony. In the case of Musa a.s., the testimony is biased. By the way, the culprits in both cases threw an accusation, but one time the accusation was false and the other time the accusation is correct. When the woman threw the accusation, it was false. And when the man threw the accusation, it was actually what? Correct. But they both threw it to save their own skin. There is solid evidence to back the testimony of Yusuf, but there's no evidence to back the testimony against Musa. It's just his word against somebody else's. There's no concrete evidence available. Now here's the interesting part. So Yusuf committed a crime or no? No. Yusuf committed no crime, but he was jailed. Musa committed a crime, yes, but he escaped. So the one who didn't commit a crime got jailed, and the one who did commit a crime was able to escape. There are two run-ins with the minister's wife. Actually, the first time she tried to seduce him. The second time, you remember what she did? She brought all these other women and threw a party and did all that, right? So two run-ins with the minister's wife. And there are two run-ins with the criminal in the story of Musa. The first run-in happened when he ran into him and he punched. The second run-in happened when? The next day. Two run-ins again. Now a group of women are involved in hatching a scheme against Yusuf. You know this. A group of women are hatching a scheme against Yusuf. And a group of men are hatching a scheme against Musa. Which group of men are hatching a scheme against Musa? The police chiefs. Very good. The scheme for the women is to arrest Yusuf. The scheme for the men is to kill Musa. It is her misguided love that gets Musa in trouble. It's her misguided love that gets Musa in trouble. And on the Egyptian side, it is their misguided hate that gets Musa. Or actually, the first one I said wrong. It's her misguided love that gets Yusuf in trouble. And it's their misguided hate, the Egyptians' hate, that gets Musa a.s. in trouble. Yusuf's only advocate. Who's the only one who could have spoken up for Yusuf? Think, Yusuf. Huh? Not the wife. The wife is going to speak for him. The minister. The only advocate Musa has is the minister, and he does not help him get out of trouble. He didn't help him. He let him rot in jail. The only advocate Musa has is who? His police chief friend, who does help him get out of trouble. The minister foreshadows a plot hatched by women. Actually, when the minister first caught his wife, messing around, he said, "Hada min kaydikunna inna kaydakunna azim." This is from the kind of schemes you women make. Your plans are huge. Your plans are great. Did women end up making a plan in the story? Yes. So he foreshadowed that a plan is going to be made. The police chief reveals a great plot in this case. The police chief actually comes out and says, by the way, there is a plot. There is a scheme going on. Yusuf's only hope for escape from jail. How's he going to get out of jail, guys? What's his only hope that he might get out of jail? Anybody know? One of the two prisoners who's about to be released, hey, listen, when you get out there, could you make mention of me? Could you let the government know that I'm in here? I'm rotting in here? That's the one person who's his hope for escape. And Musa's help, so his hope for escape is from a fellow prisoner, and Musa's escape is at the hands of a fellow police officer. Yusuf's supposed helper had to be asked for assistance. Didn't Yusuf have to ask him, hey, could you help me? And Musa's helper, did Musa have to ask him, or he came on his own? It's the opposite, he came on his own. There's constant comparison and contrast between the two. Yusuf helps two men using his gift. What was his gift? This is pretty cool. He helped two men using his gift. How did he help him? By interpreting their dreams. Musa helped two women using his gift. What was his gift? Strength. Yusuf has a prolonged conversation with the two men. They're in jail and they talk for a long time. He gives them da'wah and he's talking about Allah and his family history, the whole nine. They have a long conversation. But when Musa helped the two girls, did he have a long conversation with them? The conversation was actually one sentence. What was it? What is wrong with you? And that's it. That was the end of it. One of the two prisoners forgot to mention Yusuf, isn't it? He forgot to mention Yusuf after getting out. But the girls, when they went back, what happened? Did they forget to mention him or mention him immediately? They mentioned him immediately with Musa a.s. Allah specifically mentions two young men, fatayan. The two prisoners, it's so interesting. The two prisoners are not called two prisoners. They're called two young men. Who's on the opposite end in the story of Musa? Two what? Young women. But Allah never called them young women out of protection of their modesty. He doesn't just say, fatatan, two young girls, two chicks or something. He doesn't do that. He just says two women. He doesn't talk about their age, because talking about their age might give you ideas. So he protects it. So even though from the context we know they are two young girls, the context is enough. So this is part of how Allah deals with women with modesty, Then Yusuf a.s. says, now listen to his speech. Yusuf says this. إِنِّي تَرَكْتُ مِلَّةَ قَوْمٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ كَافِرُونَ. No doubt about it, I have abandoned the religion of a nation who doesn't believe in Allah. I have left a nation, the religion of a nation who don't believe in Allah, and they are in complete denial of the afterlife. I have left them. Who says this? Yusuf. But you might as well say that Musa said this. Isn't that exactly his situation? If these words you didn't know who said it, you might even think who said it? Musa a.s. They apply 100% to both. Now, when Musa a.s. helped the two guys, you know the story, right? When he helped the two prisoners, what was around the story? There was mention of a meal. I'll help you guys. I'll help you understand your dream before the meal arrives. So there's mention of food. When Musa helped the two girls, what is there a mention of? Drink. One is a meal after the help, the other is a drink before the help. SubhanAllah. Food and drink. How even the little things are complementing each other in these stories. Then the interaction, actually Yusuf a.s. so awesome. Yusuf a.s. is in jail. And he mentions how incredibly blessed he is. He just keeps mentioning how blessed he is. And Musa a.s. is sitting under a tree and telling Allah how desperate he is. This is complete, and they're both legitimate. You should mention how blessed you are, but you should also speak to Allah about what? How desperate you are. One doesn't contradict the other, they complete each other, subhanAllah. So after this comparison, Yusuf a.s. serves by doing da'wah. Actually, before that, the two prisoners, did Yusuf go to them and say, I want to help you, or did they come to him? The two prisoners came to him, hey, could you help us out? But in the case of Musa, did the two girls come to him or did he go to them? He went to them, the exact opposite. Yusuf served by doing da'wah. How did Musa serve? Yusuf served by doing da'wah. How did Musa serve? By helping do their work, by using his strength. Allah mentions Yusuf a.s. stayed in prison for some years, and Musa a.s. was offered housing and comfort for some years, 8 to 10 years. Which is actually roughly in Arabic, when you have between 8 and 10, you call that bid'u sinin. And that's exactly the words used for Yusuf a.s. And then 8 to 10 is used for Musa a.s. It's just incredible. Yusuf a.s. asked a fellow prisoner for help. But he was helped, or was he not helped? He wasn't helped. He asked for help and he didn't get it. Musa asked anybody for help or no? Who did he ask? He asked Allah for help and he got help right away. Help was expected by Yusuf and he was let down. Help was not expected by Musa from anyone, but he was pleasantly surprised. Immediately help showed up from somebody. One of the two men comes back. Why did he come back to jail? To check on Yusuf. Do you know? The king asked him to. The king asked him to go and find the answer, so he came back to jail. And one of the two girls came back because the dad asked him to go back. One comes back, the other comes back. Yusuf refuses to come out. I'm not coming out. Until what? Until my name is cleared. Musa says, let's go right away. There's no refusal. He says, let's go right away. Then, it baffles me. The Quran, across the entire Quran, the word Shaykh Kabir is only used twice. Shaykhun Kabir. What does Shaykhun Kabir mean? An old man or a man with some social pull. The only time it's used is either with Musa's story or with Yusuf's story describing Yaqub alayhi salam. That's the only two times Shaykh Kabir occurs in the whole Quran. Then the man comes back. By the way, when the man came back, this is pretty cool. When the guy came back to get Yusuf alayhi salam, he acted like his friend. Yusuf! Ayyuha Siddiq! Buddy! How you been, man? You holding up okay? Hey, by the way, could you help me with this dream? So he acted like what? A friend. No hesitations. When the girl came back, did she act like a friend? She was shy and reluctant and holding back and saying, actually, I'm not even here because I like you. My dad told me to come here. Inna abi yad'uka. You know? This immediate contrast between the two. Now, the man who comes back tries to take credit for Yusuf's interpretation. Did you know that? He actually told the king, he said, Ana unabbi'ukum bita'wilihi. I will interpret it for you, sir. Give me some chance, let me go do some research. I shall interpret it for you. Even though who was actually going to do the interpreting? So he was not willing to give credit where it was due. The girl, however, when she spoke to her dad, what did she do? She gave credit immediately. Inna khayra man ista'jarta al-qawiyyul amin. The best kind of person you can hire is the strong, the honest. Yusuf comes back at the request of a king. The king said, pull him out, I need to meet him. Musa came back because of the request of a king? No, actually he came at the command of Allah. Yusuf's hope was to prove his innocence, and Musa's fear was that his guilt would be established. The women testify and Yusuf is proven innocent. Musa walks back in, testifies and proves himself that he was what? Guilty. He testifies and accepts his guilt. Yusuf ends up serving the kingdom. Musa ends up revolting against the kingdom. Yusuf's words are taken very seriously by the king. Musa's words are dismissed by the king. He dismisses them. Yusuf alayhi salam's only helper is his brother. He's going to help, his brother is going to be his helper. Musa alayhi salam's only helper is going to be who? His brother. He's going to be reunited with many years later. Just like Yusuf alayhi salam. Yusuf's brother is helpful by staying silent. Because you don't say anything yet, just stay with me. Quietly, I'll tell you I'm your brother, but just stay here and stay quiet. How does Allah present the case for Harun? Ya Allah, I need him. Huwa afsahu minni lisanan. He's a much better speaker than I am. So Yusuf's brother Binyamin will help by being quiet, and Harun's supposed to help because he's a good what? Speaker. The exact opposite again. This is fascinating. The king, in the case of Yusuf alayhi salam, said, "I'tuni bihi astakhlishu li nafsi." Bring Yusuf. I want to use him exclusively for myself. He will be my personal aid. He will not answer to anyone except me. I want to have an exclusive personal relationship with Yusuf. That is how impressed the king is with who? Yusuf. In the case of Musa alayhi salam, Fir'aun says, "Dharuni aqtul Musa." Let everyone go, I will kill Musa myself. One says, I want to be friends exclusively with Yusuf. The other says, I want to kill Musa with my own hands. That is how by the way, this entire scenario of, Yusuf alayhi salam's family being reunited, that is how the Israelites were settled in the land. Settled in the land of what? Egypt. In the story of Musa, what happens by the end? They had to what? Leave the land of Egypt. They had to cross the water, remember? That is how they had to leave the land. So Yusuf is the reason they moved to Egypt. Musa is the reason they what? Left Egypt. And look, the blessing of being settled in a land. You got to settle in a land. That blessing turned into a curse because they were turned into what? Slaves. And the curse of being uprooted turned into the blessing of freedom. They were made homeless. But that homelessness, the curse of homelessness, actually came with the blessing of freedom. So now this story, the Yusuf alayhi salam story began outside Egypt and ended inside Egypt. Musa alayhi salam story begins inside Egypt and ends where? Outside Egypt. The sons of Israel, meaning Israel, by the way, his other name is what? Anybody know what the other name of Israel is? Okay, the sons of Israel have no choice. The sons of Yaqub have no choice. They can only get their food from Egypt. And in the story of Musa, the sons of Israel will wander in the desert. They cannot go back to what? Egypt. They can get their food anywhere except Egypt. They can't go back to Egypt and get their food. Subhanallah. Now, last few. Yusuf alayhi salam, who did wrong to him first? His own family or outsiders? Yusuf was wronged by his own family, and later on he was wronged by the minister, his wife, all that. So he was first wronged by his own, and then he was wronged by elite in the Egyptian government. Who was wronged? Who wronged Musa alayhi salam first? Musa alayhi salam was wronged by the people of Fir'aun first. Then later on he was wronged by his own people. Banu Israel wronged him all the time. They did wrong by him all the time. So it's reversed between the two of them. Musa alayhi salam, did he come back to fulfill a dream? Musa, did he come back to fulfill a dream? Did Yusuf come back to fulfill a dream? Yeah, both kings had a dream, and both prophets came back, and they made the dream a reality. Yusuf alayhi salam, when he interprets or he fulfills the dream, he saves the kingdom. Musa alayhi salam, when he interprets the dream or fulfills the dream, what does he do? He destroys the kingdom. Yusuf alayhi, this is the last one. Yusuf alayhi salam's story, it teaches us how a man and a woman are not supposed to come together. How? The woman's obsessed with him, but she's already a married woman. And she's asking him for wrongdoing, and he turns her down, and he runs away. This is not the way a man and a woman should ever come together. What do we learn in the story of Musa today? How a man and a woman should come together. I'm reading the story after that one ayah that said the Egyptians think that Musa reminds them of who? Yusuf. And I go back and I start reading, and there's parallel, comparison, contrast, parallel, comparison, contrast, one after the other, after the other. You couldn't make this stuff up. It's so baffling how interconnected these two things are. How they're literally two sides of the same coin. One emphasizing father, the other emphasizing mother, one emphasizing brother, the other emphasizing sister. How did this work? And then I go back and listen to what Allah said. He said, I'm going to tell you the best of all stories. I just say to myself, Ya Allah, only you could do that. We're not capable of that. My point in this long list of comparisons, the only point I wanted to bring to your attention is that there is so much beauty in the Quran that we just overlook. We don't even realize it's there. It's a tragedy. We say, oh, I know what happened with Yusuf. That's it. The Quran is an endless treasure. We need to learn to seek it, not just so we know what it says, but to appreciate what it says. I'm ending where I started. That's the entire purpose behind actually my organization. My organization, its goal is to help spread the knowledge of Arabic and help spread, and not just an understanding, but actually more importantly, an understanding with an appreciation of the Quran. That's its entire goal. I feel like there are a lot of tafsirs that are written, there's a lot of books that are written, a lot of translations that are available. They might help you do what? Understand. But they're still not helping you do what? Appreciate. And if you can develop an appreciation, the thing that happens with appreciation is understanding will influence your mind, but appreciation will influence your heart. Like you'll feel differently about this book. Your attitudes towards it will change. Your attitude towards your own life will change. That's the point of it. I don't get to travel much. Austin is right here and I don't get to travel here. I don't remember the last time I was here. It was many, many years ago. Actually, So I did come briefly for a school, but before that, many years ago when I came to NAMCC, And actually, when I came, it was a big ditch. Now it's a parking lot. Right? So it's a huge improvement. But anyway, so sorry. But what I wanted to say to you guys is I may not get to travel much actually at all. You might feel like I travel all over. I don't. I've cut my travel down a lot. Because I feel like the exploration of the Quran and pulling out these pearls and sharing them with people and giving them access to this stuff is more important than me traveling. That's more important. And that requires me sitting down and studying and doing research and making this stuff accessible. As I do this stuff, the recording team is here, they're recording this because it's going to go up on that one archive that the entire organization is working to build, and that's Bayyinah TV. How many people here are familiar with Bayyinah TV? Okay, I have two things for you. If you guys haven't signed up for Bayyinah TV already, if you do tonight, inshallah, the Bayyinah team wanted to give you a free t-shirt as a gift, a Bayyinah t-shirt. But additionally, I wanted to give at least one person in the audience a 1-year subscription to Bayyinah TV if they can answer this question. I got it right here. I got it. Should I make it easy or hard? So here's a question. The hands raised in the first 10 seconds are the only hands I'll consider. It has to be right. 3 surahs that are connected to each other. No dream students. No dream students. Let's see. Don't talk about the answer. That guy over there. Yes, sir. Hey, wait, what? Are you asking him? Why are you looking at him? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. You win. Very good. MashaAllah. Come here, I'll give you this. Very good job. MashaAllah. I'm going to take 2 more minutes. Promise, 2 more minutes. I guarantee you. No more than that. I just want to share a vision with you. If you guys buy into this vision, I'd appreciate it. If you don't buy into this vision, just make dua for us. Here's what I have in my head. In my head, there's obviously all kinds of crises in the ummah today. But we don't think enough about solutions. We are overwhelmed thinking only about the problems. My intention, inshallah ta'ala, is to create an entire spectrum of media and educational services that have to do with making the Quran accessible and its appreciation accessible to Muslims all over the world, regardless of where they are, whether they have the internet or not, in the language that they speak, universally, so that our iman as an ummah is raised because we're connected once again to the Book of Allah. We are living in the age where that is possible. We are living in the age where we don't need the kinds of resources where we once needed to be able to pull that off. But in order to do that, you have to have some kind of mechanism, some kind of vehicle. Bayyinah TV, in my head, is that vehicle for us. I'm going to put I've already put the translation and a brief explanation of the Quran on there. Arabic with Husna is already on there. This program is going to be on there. Other story nights are already on there. Divine Speech, which when I used to teach, there used to be an average of 1 or 2 shahadas at a program, is already on there. But that's not where I'm stopping. What we're inshallah hoping to do are TV shows, talk shows, even animations, cartoons, the works. I want there to be an actual TV genre available that can be broadcast on the air. It can be translated into Arabic and Urdu and French and Spanish and German and Bengali and, or Bangla, sorry, and whatever language. And we have to do this because we cannot expect that our problems are going to be solved if the solution that Allah sent is not in our hearts. If that's not there, if it hasn't made its way into the hearts of people, and they haven't appreciated it, change is not going to come. We're still going to be thinking change is going to come through some kind of policy or some kind of other strategy. Nothing will happen without the word of Allah. Nothing will happen without the word of Allah. And the word of Allah is powerful enough to solve or to help us stand against any crisis. Nothing is too big of a challenge for Allah's book. Nothing. We have to have that confidence in His book. The problem right now is that of access. The problem is here you have people that want to know something, but they don't even know where to begin. They don't even know where to start learning. And a lot of times the information they're getting is worse. It takes them further away from Allah's book instead of bringing them closer to Allah's book. That's the battle we have to fight. And that's where I need your help. If you're already subscribers, I'm appreciative of your support. And if you're not subscribers of Bayyinah.tv, I'm hoping you not only do you sign up tonight, but you become advocates for this cause. I want it to spread all over the world, honestly all over the world. I want to be doing campaigns within the next year where I go to countries like, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh, these countries, and there are schools who can't afford it, who can't afford a Bayyinah TV, and we give the subscription to the entire school and help them set it up. So they're getting an Arabic and Quran education from the ground up, And it's not just about me doing talks. I want to have an entire conglomerate of brothers and sisters, men and women, teachers, that are going to do an excellent job of teaching Quran, teaching Arabic, teaching these things, and engaging in this discourse, building this kind of repository, because it's absolutely, absolutely necessary. That is the vision that I have. And inshallah, if that is there, then the next step is educational institutions, and the next step after that is producing serious leadership, inshallah ta'ala. And I pray that Allah Azza wa Jal makes that vision come true. I thank you so very much tonight for listening carefully. I hope that you enjoyed Story Night. And inshallah, make dua that Allah puts barakah in this work and all the other work that we're trying to do. Barakallahu li wa lakum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.